So I think that's the key, is to have some sort of, the world needs something from you by a certain time. But then you also have to actually have something to say.
It gives. You are not writing, it writes.
Yeah, sure.
But in point, as an advisor, I would say he has written his introduction. And a very good introduction in a book on rhymes. Exactly that, what you read to us, I don't know about his girlfriend, etc. But the other, with a little editing, would be a very original way to introduce a book of poetry. It doesn't need to have another introduction. Just be an artist, say, this is now for the museum.
Yeah.
Betty.
His editor sort of emails him back when he sends off this huge introduction of 240 pages. Saying, you know, it's okay, it needs a little trimming.
Yeah, Baruch?
No, I don't have a question.
You have no question, Baruch? Come on, now we have fun. Stand up so we can hear you better.
Stand up is the question I don't have. No, I was just enjoying this. I'm not sure what I think about it yet, but this idea of infantility or infantile pleasure that is in language that we retrieve through puns and through rhymes. And I don't know. Usually we live in an age where that aspect of ourselves is not considered something that we should cultivate or go to. But as Wolfgang said, you know, we should all start again here. So it's the place to rhyme, I guess.
Well, what I was struck by in writing this, I mean, obviously I'm not a poet. I had one poem long ago published in the New Yorker, so I felt I had some little moment that I could start from. I had actually talked on the phone with Alice Quinn, who's the editor, but I didn't. But it seems to me that we all have, well, we don't really recognize it as poetry, but we all have hundreds and hundreds of lines of poetry in our head, and it's just song lyrics. And why are they in our head? I mean, why do we want to hear those things rhyming through? Why is it Coldplay or Green Day or Marilyn Monroe singing, you know, I've locked my heart, I find no comfort there, I've stocked my heart with icy frigid air. You know, why do we want it to do that? It's just, there's something exciting and beautiful about that, and it's a puzzle. And so I wanted my poet to figure out what that was, and I'm not sure that he did figure it out. But there's something basic there.
Wasn't resolving? Don't we want like resolution and to repeat something? And also there's an idea of like, I think it makes us feel smart as well to resolve things, to feel it's figured out. I don't know.
Yeah, but when you're humming a jingle for, I don't know, some ad, and you don't feel that smart, but it's in your head and it's going round and round. It's obviously something deep in the most primitive Carl Sagan part of your mind. It's the rhyme, not them. But
this is your brain on drugs. It's a good book. It talks about exactly that.
Is it?
Yeah, it has neurological.
It's all neurological.
Yeah.
Well,
What else?
Yes.
You asked me earlier today how I know when I'm finished editing a film, how it's, okay, it's done, cut no more. Is the deadline what does that for you? Or is there ever a point where you say, okay, no more rewriting, that's it?
Well, there are several phases. I think that's the most difficult problem, is to know when you're done. I have an uncle who is a painter, and he's very careful about selling his paintings, so he has just a house full of his own paintings, and he never wants to be finished with anything. So he starts with something that looks like, you know, a kind of copy of a Claude or a Poussin, and it gets darker and darker, and more shadows, and eventually, you know, it's different. And you don't know, and he doesn't maybe know when he's done. That's what my mother used to say.
Yeah, and all the things of the philosopher's perspective, openness is our greatest gift. You know, that we never done.
Yes.
That is, so it's just it's totally arbitrary and we stop. You just have to have the courage to do it. That's all. You know, but most people are trained to be cowards. We have not been cowards as baby, but we became cowards until you came here, obviously. We are scary more in the months, actually.
I just realized I misspoke, and it illustrates your point. I said, this is your brain on drugs. I meant to say, this is your brain on music.
That's different.
And but that's my mnemonic for remembering the name of the book. So it's a psychological, it's a memory rhyme, and they talk about how music and rhyme is a form of data compression. So you're able to make linkages to things and go from one place to the other and remember a long, complicated thing.
I think there's something to that. Knowing what you're finished with, though, the temptation with all these things is that you can always say that there's a line by Pope that Alps beyond Alps arise. There's always more scholarship to be done. There's always more paths to be sought out. But unless you decide that it's an end helped by a deadline, you will never finish. And there's a kind of self-indulgence about never finishing, a scary self-indulgence about allowing yourself to accumulate things forever without delivering what you have to say.
But the deadline is more, I think, it's philosophically maybe not the most interesting part, because again, it's more about the courage. But the combination or similarities between music and poetry, you know, in the last 150 years in philosophy we have discussed this. What is the most authentic art? Music, as Schopenhauer claimed, because there is no words attached, nobody can really screw it up. Or poetry, as Gadamer, for example, or Porzellan, this kind of hermetic poetry, you read it, you know all the words, and you don't understand it. And that exactly is why it is good. Why you have to come back, while you can start with this. And in some way, maybe what he is now telling us is, there is no point to make this fight. So come back to the place where they have been both together. As music in rhyme, in sounds. That's this thing. That I think is philosophically quite an interesting point. Okay. Polanka, then Mark.
Yeah, I was just a quick question. Maybe you're familiar with Derrida's debate with Searle about the difference between written and spoken language. And I was wondering what you think in terms of writing or poetry. Is there a difference for you between the written and the spoken? In regard to, because you were talking about the sound coming before the meaning, almost. And I'm thinking, doesn't the meaning sort of coincide with the sound?
Well, I'm not familiar with the specific.
I'm not
It's
totally
certainly there about
yeah.
the conversation, but
He's right.
Yeah.
I mean, I recognize the names, but I don't.
All it was a debate about the one over the other, that one is privileged over the other, and I think that Searle had privileged the spoken or something.
No, but really, the real point is that we usually think that writing is a more fixed.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And his point was, no, spoken is a more fixed one. Writing is just a mark, and every new reader has a new interpretation to it.
Yes, yes.
So he kind of changed around what everybody thought was already settled.
Right.
Well, I think I began in a very writerly way, and I began by thinking about commas and periods and semicolons and the mysteries of the way things looked graphically.
Mm-hmm.
Writtenness was very important to me. And as I've gotten older as a writer, I want to hear it first. And as I type it, I actually look away from the screen and want to say it first. So it's as if something has happened where I feel that it's realer if it's first come out of my mouth or come out of an imagined mouth before it's been put on the page.
Actually, I like hearing